Hello and welcome back to Uncovered, where I give you a rapid-fire rundown of the latest titles added to Xbox Game Pass that I won't be covering in First 15. Since this is the first episode of 2025, it's going to be a hefty one, with some exceptions I'll explain at the end. And as a reminder, this isn't a ranking or review, I'm just telling you what's new. Starting with Mythwrecked Ambrosia Island, an adventure game where you play as a backpacker shipwrecked on an island populated by the Greek gods. It's a casual game where you befriend the island's inhabitants by exploring, doing small tasks, and recovering their lost memories. And the reception is mixed depending on where you look. If you go into it expecting a cozy game that functions more like a collectathon in a nice setting with the occasional puzzle rather than an open-world adventure with action or interesting mechanics, you may enjoy it, keeping in mind some of the main issues players had, like the tasks being repetitive, an overly simplified modern take on the gods, and an art style that may be an acquired taste. If it still sounds like your cup of tea, you can check out Mythwrecked Ambrosia Island right now. Next is 33 Immortals, an action roguelite where you play as an immortal fighting back against a god. With 33-player co-op, hence the name, it's structured like a pared-down version of an MMO with a focus on bosses and raids. And while the game has been very well received so far, minus complaints about difficulty and the lack of button mapping, it is in early access with updates planned throughout 2025. As of recording, there are 2 worlds to explore and 2 main bosses, 4 weapons, and a ton of enemies. And best of all, at least for me, it's from Thunder Lotus, the developers behind one of my favorite indie games and one of the most beloved series on this channel, Spiritfarer. So, if challenging but fun multiplayer in a setting reminiscent of games like Hades is up your alley, you can play 33 Immortals right now. Next is Mullet Mad Jack, a fast-paced arcade melee shooter set in a retro-futuristic world where you have to beat the time to survive. It has a 90s aesthetic and classic anime-style cutscenes. You get to choose from over 50 power-ups that switch up how you tackle each level, and there's a fully animated campaign, or you can play Endless Mode. I played the demo for this on the channel last year as a quick hit, and even though I was rushing through it, it was super fun, so I'm sure it's even more enjoyable if you actually try. And it's another well-received game, though players have mentioned occasional freezing, including a freeze that locks the game right before the ending. So it still has some kinks to work out, but if you like flashy, frenetic shooters, or you love speedruns, Mullet Mad Jack is definitely worth a look. Then we have Enter the Gungeon, which is a popular enough game that I won't spend a lot of time on it, but if you don't know, it's a bullet hell roguelike dungeon crawler with a mix of handcrafted rooms and a procedurally generated map where you control your choice of hero in search of an ultimate weapon. There are tons of enemies and creative guns to unlock, from lasers to bees. It has 2-player couch co-op, and it's universally praised as one of the best games in its genre. So if you haven't played Enter the Gungeon yet, you should do it right now on Game Pass. Next is One Lonely Outpost, which many have dubbed Stardew Valley in space because it's a farming sim set on an alien planet. It has everything you'd expect from a sim like farming, building, fishing, cooking, etc., though there are some mechanics unique to the setting like terraforming, and you can eventually attract other colonists. The consensus seems to be that the game needs a lot more time in the oven, with the main complaints I've seen being its painfully slow progression, lack of direction, poor pacing of quests, and long stretches with nothing to do, plus a variety of bugs and a general need for quality of life improvements. So if you were looking forward to The Lonely Outpost, you may still want to give it a shot to decide for yourself. Just be forewarned that in the state it's in, it may be a slog. Next, we've got Monster Train, a roguelike deck-building strategy game set on a train to hell with 3 vertical fields to defend. You can choose from 5 clans with unique attributes, upgrade and duplicate cards, of which there are over 200, and there are random events, daily challenges, online multiplayer modes like Hell Rush for up to 8 players, and the Game Pass version does include the Friends and Foes and Wild Mutations updates, which add new champions and cards, revamp the train tracks, and incorporate some player requests like an enemy wave counter. I love card games, and I don't think I've ever played anything like this, so I'll probably give it a go in my free time. I also haven't seen anything negative about it, so if you want to jump into something unique, you can check out Monster Train right now on Game Pass. Speaking of card games, next is Balatro, which is a poker-inspired roguelike deck builder with its own unique rules and combos. There's a challenge mode, seeded runs, and a campaign mode with 8 difficulties. For the deck, there are 150 jokers with special abilities, plus their variants, tarot cards that modify regular cards, planet cards that level up your hands, voucher cards that provide buffs, and a lot more that you'll learn about as you play. It's another game you'll be pressed to find anything negative about, and while this video is about Game Pass, Balatro is one of the top played games on Steam Deck if you'd rather check it out there. Next, we have Watch Dogs Legion, the last entry in the Watch Dogs franchise, now set in London, only this time you can take control of anyone on the street, with each NPC turned PC having their own personality, backstory, and skill set. It includes new 4-player co-op missions as well as online PvP matches, and while many players loved the concept, the reception was lukewarm, citing repetitive missions, the drone summoning making the game too easy, a lack of vehicle and weapons variety, and the fact that the core hook of the game felt more limiting than having a dedicated protagonist, like my boy Aiden in the red coat. But another complaint about Legion was that it had a lot of issues that never got fixed, like a well-known save bug that causes you to lose your game data, which some players still report. Long story short, it's a fun game, but your mileage may vary. If you want to see what your mileage is, you can play Watch Dogs Legion right now on Game Pass. Next is Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader, and I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like there is always one 40k game on my list, but this is an isometric classic RPG set in the 40k universe, where you play as a trader traveling on your void ship along with your chosen crew. It's a story-rich game where decisions allegedly matter, changing the open world and the paths of those within it. It features tactical turn-based combat, and there are some neat additions like faction-based trade. It seems like another winner on this list, not only for the 40k fan base, but for people who've never been exposed to Warhammer, and its flexible difficulty options can help you get through what may be a steep learning curve at the start, though it may still be a struggle if you don't fully understand the build you want to start with. While reception has been great, one observation I've seen often, even from those who love it, is that there's a lot of text, a lot of reading, a lot of stats, a lot of dialogue, etc. Some players have also encountered a lot of bugs, though I'm not sure if that's mainly on PC or not. So if you have the patience for an abundance of words, and you want to hop into a cool old school RPG with rich lore, you can jump into Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader right now. Moving along, we have Kingdom 2 Crowns, which was that very popular side-scrolling strategy tower defensive game with beautiful pixel art that was making the rounds on YouTube years ago. It's set in a medieval landscape, and you build up your kingdom by recruiting villagers, expanding, and defending your land. And you can play solo or 2-player co-op, either local or online. It's a simple premise with an even simpler game loop where the standout is the environments, from additions like lands inspired by feudal Japan, the action RPG Bloodstained, and more depending on the DLC you have. It's also yet another highly praised game on this list, but there was an update that prevented players on console, at least, from being able to get past the start screen, and it still hasn't been addressed, at least at the time I'm recording this, though some players seem to encounter it intermittently. So, assuming you're able to get into it, and you enjoy the casual progression of building, planning, defending, and conquering, especially with a friend, you can't go wrong with Kingdom 2 Crowns. Next up is Far Cry New Dawn, and I won't spend much time on this either since Far Cry is a well-known franchise, but New Dawn is a follow-up to the story of Far Cry 5 set 17 years after the nuclear collapse. You have a base you can build up, you fight a faction led by Lady Twins, and it has 2-player online co-op. The general sentiment I've seen is that it feels like Far Cry 5 DLC in both length and content, only it's not as good as Far Cry 5. The story and character development isn't great, the combat can be a chore with bullet sponge bosses, customization is lackluster, and that it's most fun when playing with friends, but not necessarily something you'd want to go back to once you're done. There are also more specific complaints like microtransactions, the lack of New Game Plus, or the ability to change the FOV. Ultimately, it's another your mileage may vary situation, but people who enjoy it still agree that if you're going to play it, it's better to play it for free on Game Pass or at a really heavy discount, because anything more than that isn't worth it. Next, we have Citizen Sleeper 2 Starward Vector. It's a text-based, tabletop-inspired sci-fi RPG where you play as an android with human consciousness on the run from your corporal creators, finding a ship, building a crew, and taking on jobs as you travel the stars. You choose a class to start with and eventually recruit other characters. And for fans of tabletop games and their lingo, the game incorporates dice, clocks, and drives to push you through story-rich cycles. There are also some new additions, like a push ability for each character that you can customize and upgrade, contracts to plan out for rewards, and the world is more varied than the first game, with you being able to travel to different hubs. One opinion I've seen echoed a lot is that you should probably play the first game before jumping into the sequel, because it picks up where the first game left off, and it glosses over a lot about the story and world, with the expectation that if you're playing it, you're not new. Regardless, this is yet another beloved indie game on this list, and like I said, it's text-based, so the presentation is akin to a visual novel with animation, incorporating point-and-click interactions. That means that if you don't like reading, this really may not be for you. But if that's not an issue, why not try Citizen Sleeper 2? Next up is Sniper Elite Resistance, the latest entry in another well-known franchise, which means another short description. This time, the X-ray shot in the testicles game is set in World War II, where you play as part of the French Resistance in a story running alongside that of Sniper Elite 5. The campaign can be played co-op. They're bringing back some weapons from previous entries, as well as adding new ones authentic to the war. There are missions with timed objectives, Axis Invasion mode is back, and you can play online co-op as a 4-player unit in survival mode, or in 16-player matches in regular modes. This is one of those series where if you know what it is, you probably like it, which means I don't have to tell you to play it, you're going to play it. So if you want to play it, you might as well jump into Sniper Elite Resistance right now on Game Pass. Now we have Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, a remaster of Ninja Gaiden 2 that aims to replicate the feel of the original game by including elements from it, like its upgrade system. And it was built off the Sigma 2 code, so it also retains a lot of the changes made there, though not all of them. I'd encourage you to watch a detailed review if you want to know what they brought back and left out, though I do know you can play as Momiji, Ayane, and Rachel here. The main feedback I've seen is that it's a great remaster, but the controls are a bit clunky and the camera is terrible. That's been a deal breaker for some, and a nuance worth pushing through for others. So this is another one of those your mileage may vary games. There's also a hero playstyle mode that assists you when you're struggling, in case you're someone who's not that great at it. I'm a longtime fan of this series, old enough to remember when it first came out, but I barely remember anything about the series as a whole at this point, so I'll probably be checking this out if I have time, which I won't now that I think about it. But if you're a fan of the classics, or just someone looking for fast, bloody action, you can play Ninja Gaiden 2 Black right now. Next up, we've got Starbound, which has been likened to a less balanced, wonkier Terraria meets No Man's Sky. It's a 2D open sandbox game where you play as a bounty hunter, and you decide what your story will be from there. You can also modify the game to shape it to fit your playstyle. There are 7 character types to choose from. You get your own ship that you can customize, you can colonize planets, fight or tame monsters, craft, build, you know the drill. There are dungeons and temples, lots to explore, and there are 3 game modes: Casual, Survival, where you have to eat and your items drop when you die, and Hardcore, which has permadeath. It also has drop-in, drop-out co-op. The main complaint I've seen is that it was abandoned by the developer, so while there's a ton of potential, it won't reach it without the modding community, which seems to be alive and well, especially given that mods helped address a lot of the issues people have with the game, like weird progression in quests, unskippable cutscenes, clunky combat, lack of controller support on PC, and the list goes on. There was also some controversy with the developer or publisher that I'm not aware of at all, so you can look into that yourself if you're concerned about it, just like you can play the game yourself if you love titles like Terraria and want to see what this ambitious but imperfect and potentially never to be fully finished clone has to offer. Moving a lot faster now so I can get through this list before I'm 65, we have Lonely Mountain Snow Riders, which is a cozy skiing game where you get to enjoy the view while doing tricks, and even race co-op with up to 8 total players online. The plus is that it's laid back, but the minus is overwhelmingly one thing: the camera, and not being able to change it as you progress down the slopes. While most see that as a serious flaw that makes the game borderline unplayable, some see it as a feature and part of the challenge. Why don't you be the judge when you play Lonely Mountain Snow Riders on Game Pass? Now, when I said faster, I meant faster. So next is the original Diablo, the popular action RPG from Blizzard where you play as a hero traveling into the underworld to defeat the Lord of Terror. This one is only available on PC, and it includes the Hellfire expansion. I can't imagine that someone watching this wouldn't know what Diablo is, but I showed the promotional trailers for all of these entries, so if you don't know what a game is like, look at it. There it is. You can play Diablo right now. Then we have Carrion, a horror game where you play as the shapeless form stalking and killing everyone in your path while acquiring new abilities. This was a great game with great pixel art, some puzzles, and some Metroidvania elements with how you navigate the map, opening new paths, and backtracking. A very well received game, go play it. Next is Hunt Showdown 1896, which is the current updated version of Hunt Showdown. It's a first-person shooter where you play against others in an open-world map that also has other enemies and traps. There's Bounty Hunter mode, where you find and kill a boss to get the bounty, then make it to the extraction point before other hunters can kill you and take it. And there's Quick Play mode, now called Soul Survivor, which is basically an objective-based battle royale. Feedback I've seen is that the game needs PvE, has bad matchmaking, lots of cheating, and the UI isn't great, but it's still a lot of fun, especially with friends. Next is For the King 2, which is a turn-based roguelite tabletop-inspired RPG, which you can play solo or 4-player co-op, local or online. The map is procedurally generated, and there's a 30-hour-plus campaign comprised of 5 linked adventures, plus an infinite dungeon mode where you defeat as many floors as you can without dying. Reception was mixed. Some love the game, while others say it's too complicated and slow, or that the first game was better. The Game Pass version also isn't updated at the same time as the Steam version, so you may see different issues between them. So keep that in mind when you jump into For the King 2 right now on Game Pass. Then we've got Wild Frost, another roguelike deck builder. I just realized how many of them I have on this list. But you know what these games are at this point. Slay the Spire, etc. Though they each offer something new and depend a lot on balancing. This one seems to swing back and forth on that front with some complaints about pervasive RNG and a lack of variety in content and customization. But if you're a fan of the genre, you might as well give it a shot. You got Game Pass after all, so why not? Next is Overthrown, a cute sandbox city builder where you're a monarch with a magical crown, and the game's unique mechanics allow you to move, fight, build, and craft in fast, cartoonish ways. It has up to 6-player online co-op, and the reception has been positive in that it has potential, but it is in early access, so content is very sparse, allowing you to blast through everything it has to offer now pretty quickly. So it has a lot farther to go before some would recommend it, but for what it is, you might still want to check it out just to see where it's headed. Next is DayZ, the insanely popular, hardcore, open-world, post-apocalyptic, infected zombie survival game where you play and die. It's immersive, it's stressful, it's social, it's DayZ. If you're here for it, you've probably already been there for it, and now it's on Game Pass. We can move on. To Aliens Dark Descent, which is a real-time strategy, tactical survivor-based building-ish game set in the Aliens universe where you take charge of colonial marines set out to stop another xenomorph invasion. There is a story, it's a persistent world, you have 5 starting classes with a ton of specializations, weapons, and abilities, and along with the franchise enemies you'd expect, like facehuggers and queens, there's also something new for this game. It's mostly well-liked, but some have experienced bugs, including one on PC where they lost their progress. There are also some who don't like the difficulty, or that find the animation stiff, the cutscenes outdated, and the dialogue pretty weak. So if you love the Aliens franchise and that whole world, and what some see as cheesy lines and old-school vibes don't put you off, you can play Aliens Dark Descent right now. Next, we have Stalker 2, Heart of Chernobyl, a survival horror first-person shooter set in the post-apocalyptic exclusion zone of the Chernobyl nuclear plant. This is the Windows-only version, and the complaints about it being released unfinished back in the fall seem to persist today, with the game still being poorly optimized, plagued with crashing, and riddled with bugs even after multiple patches. Some players managed to get through it, but if you're looking for a smooth ride, heads up that this may not be it. Racing to the finish line, we've got Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, which is what it sounds like, and everyone seems to hate it. It has insane loading times, constant crashing, people finally get things going only to have issues trying to land. I always thought these flight sims were lovely games, but if they don't run, where's the fun? So, like the last entry, unless you're one of the lucky ones, you may not be able to enjoy this without a struggle, or at all. The same seems to be true for the 40th Anniversary Edition, which is also on Game Pass, though I don't know what the difference is in terms of content, just that it's also in the library, and reviews also report widespread performance issues. Better to crash a game than crash a plane, I guess. Next is Gigantic Rampage Edition, the beloved MOBA hero shooter that was shut down years ago. It's now back in all its 5v5 glory, where you team up with other colorful heroes to take down the opposing team's guardian while protecting your own. I had a lot of fun with Gigantic before it perished, and now that it's risen again like a cross-platform phoenix with new heroes, maps, and a new game mode, everyone else seems to be enjoying it too. At least they were, but the game seems to have died all over again, with player counts hitting rock bottom and a lack of dev support, tanking its recent reviews. It's a shame because plenty were happy to see it return, only to not be able to play it anymore because there's no one to play it with. But I still wanted to mention it for those who mourn it. Then we have Metal Slug Tactics, a tactical roguelite homage to the classic arcade run-and-gun Metal Slug series. If you're watching this video, then you probably know the formula when developers take a game and add the word tactics at the end. You're probably going to be on a grid, engaged in turn-based combat, and the characters and their abilities will tie back to the franchise it references. Like in this case, getting to control the characters from Metal Slug, having a sync ability that lets you unleash a coordinated attack, and even summon the Metal Slug itself. So if you like this tactics formula, Final Fantasy Tactics, the one that I think had Super Mario and Rabbids, those types of games, and you want to see it with a Metal Slug skin, now you've got it. Getting into some classics, remasters, collections, oh my, we've got the Blizzard Arcade Collection, which includes the original editions of the console classics Blackthorn, the Lost Vikings 1 and 2, Rock and Roll Racing, and RPM Racing, and with some quality of life improvements that vary by game, like button mapping and the ability to save and load. It also has new definitive editions for Blackthorn, the Lost Viking, and Rock and Roll Racing, which includes enhanced multiplayer for Viking and Rock and Roll, a new map for Blackthorn, and more. Then there's Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled, a remaster of Crash Team Racing. It has the original game modes, tracks, characters, controls, etc., plus karts, tracks, and arenas from Nitro Kart, and you can play online or local, competitively or co-op. For the feedback, the pros are the content, but the cons are the AI racers, adventure mode's difficulty, and the occasional bug. We've also got the Spyro Reignited Trilogy, an HD bundle of the original games Spyro the Dragon, Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage, and Spyro Year of the Dragon. Reception's been really great with that one, though there have been some complaints about things like the lack of FPS boost or next-gen upgrades. There's also Goat Simulator and Goat Simulator Remastered. The remaster includes everything from the original game, with improved graphics, plus all the DLC from the PC version and one from the mobile version. Also a well-received remaster if you like Goat Simulator. Then there's StarCraft Remastered, the OG RTS, plus the Brood War expansion, and it allows you to switch between the updated graphics and the classic. They also added the StarCraft 2 campaign collection, which includes StarCraft 2, and the massive 3-campaign journey, Wings of Liberty, Heart of the Swarm, and Legacy of the Void. There are multiplayer modes and co-op missions, and you can create custom games or play other people's creations in the arcade. There's Borderlands 3 Ultimate Edition, which for Game Pass includes 4 campaign expansions from Season 1, add-ons from Season 2, and a bunch of bonus content, weapons, and cosmetics. There are also upgrades for next gen, including 4K res up to 60 FPS for Series X, and local split screen for up to 4-player co-op. For the last of the collections, they added Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls, the Ultimate Evil Edition, which includes Diablo 3 and the Reaper of Souls expansion, as well as some new content and adventure mode. And this is a console exclusive. Finally, for sports and other franchise releases that you're either going to play or not because you always do or not, even if you hate them, which you usually do, so I'm not going to describe them, we've got EA Sports WRC, which is the new official game of the World Rally Championship, developed by the team that brought us Dirt Rally. EA Sports UFC 5, College Football 2025, which is probably the first time I've ever seen one of these EA Sports games get really good reviews, so this might be one you should jump into if you haven't. And last but maybe least, who knows, I don't play sports games anymore, Madden NFL 2025. Now all those sports games are available through EA Play, which is included with the PC and Ultimate Game Pass subscriptions. Now, I mentioned that there are always exceptions to these lists, so for anyone new to my channel or to Uncovered, here's how this series works. I list everything added to the library since the last episode, except for games I'm playing on the channel, either in a first look or a full series, new platform versions of a game I already listed, like if they add the console version, then add the PC version a month later, I'm not listing it again, and any games removed from Game Pass and brought back, I'm not mentioning, unless I didn't notice that they were included before. So if something comes to Game Pass and you don't see it on this list, it's for one of the above reasons, because the point of Uncovered is to share what I'm not covering otherwise. If you want a detailed list of everything coming to Game Pass without any exceptions, there are plenty out there. I also only list games after they've been added because sometimes announcements change and I don't want to tell you something will be there if it's not. So if I mention it here, it's already available. I'll post a link to every game in the box so you can check them out. Let me know if you've been looking forward to anything here or if you've already been playing them. Thanks so much for watching throughout 2024, and here's hoping we'll make it through 2025 with more Uncovered.